What's up, fellow gamers? My name is PLK and today we are touching very perspective and anticipating MMORPG here, PAX DEI. So let's try to dig deeper and understand, is it hype train or we really want to hope for the good phase for this game? Slowly but surely more details about this project are emerging. And we are not talking about the information we recently saw and heard about it from the events in 2023, but as promised by the developers, we were given a detailed overview of the MMORPG presented in a question and answer format across the several videos featuring in-game footage. I certainly won't overlook such a project, so in this video we will discuss what we have learned so far about this exciting game. But before we dive into that, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, it's our channel, right? And like the video, if you like it so far, to stay up to date with all the latest MMORPG content news. For those who are unfamiliar, PAX DEI is an MMORPG set in fantasy medieval world with a strong emphasis on a social interaction. There are no NPCs in the game. No NPCs in the game. Instead, all of resources and items are created by players themselves. The gameplay includes activities such as crafting, trading, building your own village, and forming alliances with the other players. All of this takes place in an open world powered by Unreal Engine 5 and utilizing cutting-edge technologies. The game is being developed by an experienced studio, backed by major players in the gaming industry, including Amazon, Ubisoft and more. So the big part of the development team are from these big companies. The developers definitely have the necessary experience and funding to create the truly immersive MMORPG experience. Like big boys united, collecting money and invest to produce the big boys MMORPG, if you know what I mean. PAX DEI boasts a vast open world, advanced player-driven economy, freedom of PvP, accommodating up to 20,000 players simultaneously, and the ability to play on any screen or device with seamless cross-platform functionality. Yeah, sounds like a miracle. However, one of aspects that I personally find somewhat skeptical is the absence of the NPCs, which are an integral part of most of MMORPGs. But let's move on to the details that have recently been revealed, straight from the horse's mouth. Okay, let's move to the news that we get from those videos about the game. Firstly, we were informed about the distinction between regions, provinces and the so-called heartlands, places where players can establish their own activities, including guilds. The world of PAX DEI will be divided into four main regions: Gallia, Gothia, Iberia and Anatolia. For the release, the developers are currently focused on creating the atmosphere of a part of the Gallia region, primarily drawing inspiration from the southern regions of France. Of course, with a big amount of old and good fantasy stuff in it. The province is a large part of the region. In the game, there will be different types of provinces, but the Heartland province is undoubtedly the most important and largest. Another type of provinces is what we now call the competitive provinces, which, as you can guess, will be directly related to PvP. The Heartland provinces will contain several home valleys, and the home valley, in turn, is the land where players can place their plots and build villages. We were shown a map of Friend and Family Alpha, on which you can see one central province. So, the red zones, Marenma, Tolosana, Armanhak, I hope I called them correctly, are directly home valleys. In the game, this province is a square with a side of 10 kilometers. However, the playable area will be about 70 square kilometers. The developers aim to have at least 2, ideally 3 Heartland provinces at the time when people start playing the game massively. Moreover, the entire world of the game will be not available at the release either, of it called Gallia. Until the doors of the PAX DEI world will be open, the plans include adding at least 2 or preferably 3 Heartland provinces, plus several other types of provinces that are not ready to talk about yet, and the dungeons for sure. In general, this will give a game area of about 150 square kilometers. The structure will be such that Heartland provinces will be located usually closer to the center, although not everywhere and not always exactly the same, as sometimes they will border each other and sometimes they will not. In general, there are several general rules, and a bunch of exceptions, apparently the motto of the mainframe, the developers of the game. A bit of lore. Gallia was one of the 4 greatest provinces that existed for the centuries but collapsed along with all the rest and most of civilization during the Great Fall. The Gallia region was once one of the old centers and power in the world, as well as Tulia in the east, Gotia, Carpathia and Anatolia, and the Helios in the south. In addition, there are also Iberia and finally the Atlantida. Gotia, Anatolia and Iberia, 3 other regions named after the ancient gods of the world, while the other regions, being more wild and unpredictable, are located further away, the edges of the lake and the ocean of the world. The mountains and other natural or unnatural formations divide the different regions, making it more complex than it may seem from the first glance. And there are also non-regions that lie between the borders of the known world and the true edge of the world, wherever it may be. Some call these edges worlds, others simply place the house dragon in their maps to prevent them from searching too far away. These are lands of legends and myth, the only ones before the record of which dates back to the First Crusade, when, together with the Son of Light, they repelled the invasion of the Demon Legion into this creation of God. There may also be other non-material places. Usually they are associated with powerful spiritual beings that may not find it useful to stay under the gaze of deity for some reason. The type of world PAX DEI is semi-procedural. If greatly simplified, a person creates a world map and the computer turns it into the 3-dimensional game world. If we go into details, it all starts with the 3 types of data. So it began with a 2D map from the developer. Then the computer thinks about what types of plant inhabit which biome and doing the calculation of erosion processes, lakes, personal path and like that, right? Then influence of the players and people at all, in general roads and landscape. And then the vegetation, the mobs and etc, etc, etc. Big focus for the developers is that players will feel themselves like at home. That is why player for sure could build homes for themselves, you know. Then we have some confusing part of all this info. Houses will be the place where players should gather, trade and all these from MMORPG things. So in ideal world you will be able to build full villages and cities, but we don't have much information about that. Also, PAX DEI world is being created with a part of realism. All items should be properly prepared, developed and etc. All this gave us real reason of how world works and why we have some anomalies, which we will have in the game for sure. World map will be fully provided for the players from the beginning, without any limits or fog of war. What we will not have on the map is human villages, resources, short routes through the mountains. In some places like dungeons you will not have maps at all, but players can create them by themselves, which will open for us new interesting possibilities, trade and knowledge sharing. It looks very intriguing. Also, we will have some teleportation system to make our lives a little easier, but it will not allow to teleport with 200 kilograms of the golden ore. In other words, the principle of law that I mentioned earlier is presented here as well. Well, regarding the laws, of course, currently the game already has 4 different forest biomes with their unique characteristics, several mountain areas as well as several open plains and valleys, which give the landscape a special touch. Each of these biomes offer its own visual style, different ways of navigation and exploration. Moreover, the regular biomes smoothly transition into one another depending on various factors and bodies of water. As for the creatures, on the other hand, there will be typical ones like rabbits, boars, wolves and bears. On the other hand, since we are dealing with the old-fashioned fantasy and mythical creatures exist, player may encounter unexpected entities like mythical beings, fantastical substances, or even demons, although they won't be presented everywhere. Yes. There are several general rules and whole bunch of keys and exceptions, like always with this game, right? The game will feature various weather effects such as rain, lightning, fog and each with different intensities. Primarily, it will affect the mood, landscape and visibility in the game, but the developers can't say for certain if it directly affects the creatures or resources in the game. It will be up to the players to figure that out. The day will be noticeably longer than the night, simply because, as I mentioned before, the orbits in this world revolve around the Earth at relatively high altitude. Additionally, the night will be more intense and will impact the gameplay itself. Not only visibility will be reduced, but the appearance of the mobs and the availability of resources will also be affected by the night. By the way, if you didn't know, some potions are traditionally brewed during the full moon, so keep that in mind. Now, let's touch on resources. In reality, there are many resources available, and they will be all useful by crafting. Each biome will have its own unique resources, and it seems like the system for obtaining them will be quite extensive. From what I can tell, you will be able to become a true professional in various peaceful activities. To give you an idea, the game documentation for the crafting system alone was about 70 pages long, mostly about the trees and plants. So crafting enthusiasts will definitely have a lot to enjoy. The more I learn about it, the more interesting it seems to me. And yes, it's unlikely that this game will offer mind-blowing graphics regardless of the hardware you use. The developers themselves honestly warned that the game won't be a graphical marvel as it is in the trailers right now. Let's be honest about it, right? The benefits of all this advancement in terms of graphics for MMORPGs aren't particularly noticeable at the moment. We'd really like to get our hands on some actual content. All these endless teasers for Ctrl-C and Ctrl-V, endless grind on the Unreal Engine 5 generation platform and such, but judging by everything, the content seems to be getting along just fine on its own for this game. On paper, and also, you can play this game from wherever you want. Everything that have a screen, you can play this game. That's how developers present it. On paper, all of this looks very interesting, captivating, and even somewhat awesome, let's say. I don't want to jump on a hype train because we have so many different projects this year that was a disaster, let's say. But the things the developers are doing make us anticipate many pleasant surprises that we may encounter during the game. It's been a while since we had something like this. I can't even remember when was the last time. As I said, we will wait, hope and believe. Currently you can only register for the alpha, and the release dates, localization and any other details are still unknown. But as always, I will keep your fingers on the pulse and keep you informed. So don't forget to like and dislike this video, share it with your friends and subscribe for sure, yeah? So don't forget to like and dislike. Okay, I already said that, please do that. And, leave a comment, follow me everywhere and Discord for sure if you haven't already. It was a pleasure to be with you. Until the next time. Thank you. Bye guys.